Welcome back. This episode, we're going to expound more on the attributes of entrepreneurs. We're going to talk about whether or not attributes are something that you have naturally or they can be learned. And spoiler, you can learn them. And but there are some prerequisites. Ready? Aim, fire. To start off, as I mentioned in the introduction, there are some prerequisites to be able to learn attributes. And one of those prerequisites is a desire to learn. You've got to want to learn the attributes. You've got to want to learn to do what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur. So there's got to be the desire, and there's also got to be humility. You've got to be able to believe you can learn, and you've got to believe that you need to learn. And you've got to be open to what you are learning. So you've got to have that humility. If you don't have the desire to learn and you don't have the humility to learn, then you'll never learn. And that's the same in every aspect of life, whether that be at school or what have you. If you're at school and you don't want to learn, you're not going to learn anything. If you're at school and you go in all proud thinking like, oh, I already know everything there is to know on this subject, then you're not going to learn anything new. So you've got to have that humility and that desire.
I think the attitude is the most important thing, that position that we hold about ourselves and the attributes of a good entrepreneur. People have very interesting and varied ideas of what self-esteem means. A lot of people think that, well, if you just give yourself tell yourself enough affirmations, you will be, great and invincible. To me, the best attitude is I can do anything, because that's what we do as human beings. We create, we run businesses, we raise families, we have great neighbors because we can. And then realize that none of us have arrived. And the person that I'm competing against is myself. I can become a better businessman. I can become a better communicator with those that I work with. I can develop a greater vision, a more compelling vision. My passion can grow. I can have more passion because I have more reasons to be passionate about. Some of them could be for financial reasons. Others could be the great love that we have, and friendship that we have for those that we work with. So to me, it's important that we don't take it as an all or nothing thing. It's not either whether we are passionate or not. It's how can I gain more passion today and have that passion grow? Not whether do I have determination or not, but how can I make that determination grow so that, when I come to this roadblock of, say, a customer doesn't like the way or how well I'm killing weeds, I don't get distraught. I don't get upset. I figure out how can I do this better? And we go about solving the problem.
Yeah, I think that's great. Mentality is everything. It's amazing how much we we limit ourselves. I was listening to a podcast recently that the person that was talked about this specifically. She talked about how she was her limitation, her own limitation to becoming successful. She talked about how in her journey, once she accepted that she herself was capable of being successful, she started to see that success. And the same is true with learning these attributes. If you believe in yourself, if you believe you can learn, that's when you're going to have a breakthrough, and that's when you're going to start learning. And unfortunately, it's not going to be before that. You've got to prove to yourself, you've got to believe in yourself and move forward and work on that belief continuously. As we've talked about before, with a business, you've always got to be improving your business. You've also always got to be improving yourself. There will be times when you'll believe in yourself and you'll be all gung ho about everything about progressing in your business and learning attributes and developing them. And then there will be other days that you just don't feel it, that you'll be like, oh, maybe I don't believe in myself. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I made the wrong choice. Whatever negative thought you might have. Unfortunately, we're all the same, where we go back and forth, and we always need to be fighting to keep that positivity, to keep that mentality of belief in ourselves, and knowing that we are capable of accomplishing our goals, our dreams, and learning these attributes. So you've always got to keep that in perspective and keep that mentality in check. Make sure you're always believing in yourself and not letting that slide. The same is true with learning these attributes. You can be progressing, say, in leadership. You can be improving and becoming a better leader, but then all of a sudden, if you're not careful, those abilities might start to slip. You might start to focus on making money and end up becoming a worse leader because you start to I don't know, be short tempered with your employees because they're not working fast enough, or start blaming them for things that are going wrong in the business. And so you start to lose that ability to be a good leader, and also start to lose humility in knowing that at the end of the day, you're the one that's responsible. That's another topic we can talk about later. But you need to always keep these things in check. Always make sure you're progressing, because it's always too easy to slide back and digress.
One thing I think that is helpful to talk about, and that's the learning curve in business. All of us know that things don't go as well as we hoped for, as we planned for. None of us know how to be, meaning we haven't arrived. And so when we get into a business, that learning curve translates into lost dollars. So if we get into a business that things have to go according to our best scenario in order for us to pay back our loans, in order for us to be able to service our customers, we're going to get into trouble, because things never go according to our best scenarios. There's always problems, and there's always our inability to overcome those problems quickly. We are going to make mistakes. We are all on that learning curve. And so, again, it's just important that we have a worst case scenario too, and do not overextend ourselves so that we go out of business because we cannot pay our obligations, because we really had maybe a too high opinion of ourselves, thinking that, I am the best entrepreneur in the world. To me, it's just so important not to compare ourselves to others, just to compare ourselves to how I was yesterday, and continue to improve, and know that I'm going to make mistakes, but I can learn to overcome those. And if I give myself a margin of safety where I can give myself room to make my mistakes, I can give those around me the room to be able to make their mistakes, and we can still make a profit and put food on the table and give a good service to the customer, and continue to give an even better service to the customer each day.
Yeah, I really like that. Keeping in mind the fact that we're all going to make mistakes, we're always going to make those mistakes no matter what we do. There are, right off of the top of my head, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but two types of people. There are the people that both of them know that they're going to make mistakes. There's the person that will sit and plan forever and think of contingency plans and think of ways to avoid mistakes and do all of that, and they can take a really long time in that planning session, and then finally get to action, and that way they will avoid mistakes, but they're still going to make mistakes. And then there's also the other approach where you're going to make mistakes, so you might as well just dive in and go at it, make the mistakes quick, and learn from them and move on. And as We're talking in our pre-discussion, there are pros and cons to both of those, as you actually stated. There are pros and cons to both of those approaches. It's always a good idea to have a plan. It's always a good idea to plan for the worst, as you were saying, plan for the best, plan for the middle, and figure out solutions to possible problems. That's always a great thing to do. But at the same time, you don't want to spend a lot of time there. You want to go ahead and get moving forward, because the true teacher is experience. In school, you can learn for years and years about a certain topic, but until you experience the topic, experience that subject, that's when it's really going to stick. I've heard that the best way to learn is by doing. There's like, we're all different learners. People are visual learners. People learn better just by hearing things or reading things. But for everyone, it's across the board. The best way to learn is to experience it. And the best way to experience it is to go ahead and do it. And for me, like, my approach is generally on the side of take my time to make the plans and everything, being that planning stage. And it's a constant battle for me to tell myself, like, hey, I need to take action. I've thought of this enough. I just need to put my plan into action and see how it goes. So I can definitely talk from that angle. I'm not the kind of person that just jumps into things. But I've seen from my perspective, other people diving into things, and it's definitely messy. They definitely have a lot of things that they have to go through, a lot of obstacles. They make a lot of mistakes. Some of those mistakes are really costly, and that can be very detrimental for them. But they have learned a lot, and they are able to keep on moving forward, as long as they didn't make a mistake that was too big where it would eventually take them down, like being in too much debt or whatever. But yeah, they're like I was saying, like you were saying in the pre-discussion, there are pros and cons to both, and we just need to find a happy medium between the two approaches, and I guess have a good hybrid of both of them.
Yeah, just to reiterate and to summarize, if we jump in too soon before we've thought it through, we can make some very costly mistakes. Especially, take for instance, if we're building a home, and we start cutting our lumber and find out that we didn't plan well for putting on the drywall and stuff, and we haven't made it sure that everything was level and plumb and done correctly, we could really run into some very costly mistakes there. And then, as you said, if we don't plan, if we just plan and we don't finally get down to it, we won't put money in the bank. What was a hobby will stay a hobby and won't become a business and a side hustle that takes us into fire.
Yeah, for sure. There's always got to be planning and action. A good way that you put it in the pre-discussion, to add upon what you said, is a good way of doing it is planning, acting on that, reevaluating. So planning again, going at it again, improving on yourself, and kind of going back and forth between the two phases of planning and action, and going at it that way. So definitely that is a great thing to do for your business. And it's also a great way to learn different attributes. You can plan how you're going to be a better leader, for example, and then you can act on that, and then you can evaluate your experience and be like, okay, well, where did I do well, and where was I lacking? And you can improve that way. Go back into action and put your new plans into action. And that kind of brings me to another thing that we were talking about, is a lot of times we may think we're good at an attribute, and then be put in a situation where that's put to the test. And we may find out that possibly we were wrong, but it goes a lot deeper than that. You can't just be like, yes, I'm good at it, or no, I'm not good at it. You might be on an off day. There might be something else deeper that is happening. Like, say, you thought you were passionate about something, and one day you're just not feeling it. You're like, oh, wow, well, maybe I wasn't passionate in the beginning, but that's not necessarily true. There's something going on that has kind of, I guess, dulled that passion, but it is still there. You just have to rediscover it. You've got to find ways to motivate yourself to get into the groove and get back into doing it. Going into situations will definitely put you under a magnifying glass. It'll help you see what you're good at, what you're not good at, and it'll help you see how you can improve. So one of the best ways to learn, as I was saying before, is to experience. And to take the example of becoming a better leader, if you want to become a better leader, then I would recommend you put yourself in a situation where you're the leader and you're the one that's taking up the lead on whatever it may be. You're the one that's calling the shots, that's organizing whatever it is. And as you're going along, you're evaluating yourself and seeing where what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and improving upon that as you go along.
Yeah, a lot of being an entrepreneur is picking up good habit, and that takes practice. We have to continue to practice for instance, ways of thinking or a sequence of thinking. Thinking about in terms of simplifying, eliminating, automating, and delegating. It may take us, something that we look at each day, or part of the minutes of on the agenda. I'm sorry, part of the agenda on meetings, where we're thinking about those things on a very regular basis, so that we practice those habits that will make us good leaders, good entrepreneurs, good companies, so that we can continue to focus and serve the customer in a way that they're willing to open up their pocketbook. To me, if I were to summarize what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur, is that determination that we're going to continue to grow and develop. We're going to continue to improve our services. Each day we're working towards that. There's really no end in sight. The only thing that we're trying to accomplish each day is improvement. And every little improvement counts. There is a person that started coaching cycling in Great Britain, and he talked about the aggregation of small gains, and they continued to improve no matter how small the improvement was. And by adding up many, many, many small improvements, they were able to start winning the Tour de France, several within a 5-year period. And people had come to the point where bicycle sales or companies didn't even want them riding their bikes beforehand, because they felt like people would feel like their bicycle was subpar because it was ridden by the British cyclers. And then afterwards that changed because they continually worked on small improvements. So it's really critical that we have that mindset that we're always going to improve, that we can do anything we set our mind to, especially, take care of our families. We can do whatever it takes to care for our families. We can do whatever it takes to put food on the table. And as we continue to diligently work at that, we can obtain the mindsets and the habits and the skills necessary to be able to do that, and to be able to, in our case, to be a entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love that. It's that constant progression, that constant improvement in everything in life. There isn't a one day I'm this way and the next day, poof, I'm perfect. I'm where I want to be. It's like the concept of overnight success doesn't exist. It's more like an overnight success that was 20 years in the making. And maybe people, like with that example of the British cycling team, maybe there were people that were like, wow, these cyclists are really bad, and then like didn't pay attention to them, and then they thought like after those 5 years they saw them do really well, and they're like, wow, all of a sudden they're really good. But they don't see that process that they had to do of constant improvement to reach the level that they reached after all of their determination and their hard work and their diligence to reach that goal and to become the cyclist that they were wanting to become. And a lot of times people in business, or I guess looking from the outside looking in, will see people that were quote unquote overnight successes, and that's just not the case. It never is. They have had to go through their own process of learning, of growing, of making mistakes, of becoming better on a day-to-day basis, and that determination and humility to keep moving forward. And no matter what happens, that is actually what got them to where they are today. That is what brought them their success, and that is something that is imperative to have if you're wanting to bring success in any aspect of your life. You've got to always keep on moving, believing in yourself, and knowing that you're going to someday make it, but never being proud to where you think you've made it and thinking that you don't have any more room for improvement, because there's always room for improvement. There's always something else you can do, because if you ever reach that point where you think you've made it, then you're not trying hard enough, and you need to keep on trying, and you'll see where you're lacking, and you'll keep on improving. And like you were saying, Dad, that's what's important, making sure you're always a better you than you were before, and don't compare yourself to other people, because if you compare, you despair, and that's not a good thing to do, and we should all stay away from that for sure. All right, so the biggest takeaway from this episode that we want you guys to come away with is you can improve. You always can improve. You can always learn anything, as long as you have that humility, that desire, and that determination to learn and to grow. And as long as you have those things, you will be able to find the success that you're looking for. You'll be able to put yourself into those situations that will help you learn and grow, and you'll become the person that you want to be. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, it's always a blast to be with you, Dad, and talk about these topics and hear your input. We would love to hear from you. If you would like, you could leave a comment on our blog post for this episode. You can find that at firepreneurship.com/18. Or if you would like to be featured on this podcast, you can send us an email with a voice recording and title that email Podcast Voicemail. We will review it, and we may include it in a future episode. We look forward to hearing from you. Our mission at firepreneurship.com is to help people like you achieve FIRE, financial independence, retire early, through entrepreneurship. We offer educational materials like this podcast, but most of all, we offer outsourcing services to help you automate the business you started to bring you financial independence, so you can focus on what you love the most about running your business, or if you want, step away from your autonomous business altogether and retire early. Thank you for listening to this edition of the Firepreneurship Show. To show our appreciation, we've created a page full of helpful resources for you and your business. To access it, visit firepreneurship.com/resources. Again, that's firepreneurship.com/resources. It's time we signed our own Declaration of Financial Independence.